Hey guys, welcome back once again to Nerd Science, and as mostly everyone who's been paying attention to Dragon Ball Super or Dragon Ball in general knows, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 has been announced for later this year, late in 2016, around November, December, around that period of time. It's been announced for this year, and the interesting thing is that it's boasting a new character list, a wider set of characters, a bunch more characters than what Xenoverse 2 actually offered. And today I'm actually going to be going through 7 characters that would be awesome to be in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. 7 characters that would actually be interesting to see in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, and these 7 characters are characters that we did not have in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1, and they were not included in any DLC or anything like that. They're special characters that we didn't actually get to see much of in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1, or we just didn't get to see any of them at all in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1. And my voice may sound a little bit weird or deep or strange to that. That's just because it's a fruit thing right now, blah blah, whatever. So let's just get on the list and ignore my horrible, strangely sounding voice. Okay, so let's get on the list. At number 7, 7 characters. At number 7, we have Bio Broly. And Bio Broly is basically from Broly's like third, when he came the third time in the Dragon Ball movie. When Broly came the third time, but he was in sort of a goopy, biological-ish form. It wasn't really full control Broly. It was more of a, let's say, kind of mutated form of Broly with goop and sludge all around him. He didn't really have control much over what he was doing. So in Bio Broly, we actually see Broly going against Goten and Trunks, and at the end, as usual, the villain is destroyed and the hero save the day, blah 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 in Dragon Ball. So Bio Broly is not much of a character that people acknowledge. People don't acknowledge Bio Broly as a character much because there are people that don't actually like Bio Broly. But in all reality, Bio Broly is technically one of the strongest characters from Dragon Ball or any Dragon Ball movie, because he is technically still Broly, even though he is morphed, he's messed up, he's mutated. He's still technically Broly, and he still has all the abilities of Broly. So Bio Broly, in all reality, is a very strong character, and to see him in Xenoverse 2, to be able to actually choose him from the character roster, to choose him from the list as a playable character, would actually be interesting to see what moves he has, what skills he has, what abilities he has, what he can do, and if there's actually a story revolving around Bio Broly in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, it'll actually be interesting to see how that story goes along. Maybe we'll be playing as Trunks or Goten or Android 18 or even Hercule probably, maybe something along that lines, or even Krillin. So Bio Broly would be an interesting character to see in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, just because of everything involved around him. He might not be like as strong as he would be if he was just Broly, but he's still gonna be a high level. He's still gonna be extremely strong in the game probably. So that's it for number 7, Bio Broly. So now we're going on to number 6, which is from another Dragon Ball movie. Actually, 3 of the characters on this list. 3 of the characters on this list are from Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z movies. That'd be number 7, number 6, and number 1. All 3 of them are from Dragon Ball movies. So at number 6, we have Tapion. So Tapion is basically from the movie Wrath of the Dragon. And from what we know, he doesn't have a vast collection of skills, or he isn't one of the strongest or toughest and bravest, I should say. One of the toughest fighters we know in Dragon Ball. It's not like he's on almost the same level as Goku. He's on a much lower level than Goku, but he's still an interesting character nevertheless. As we can see, he fights for the good of things. He is kind of righteous, and he really wants, in Dragon Ball, he really wants to just help others out and protect other people. So we see Tapion as the one who gives Trunks his sword, the one who gives Trunks his sword. And Tapion has this little whistle thing that he actually plays his music on to calm whatever danger was happening in the movie. So I'm not going to delve much into the movie because that's not important now, but Tapion is a character that, if we actually gave him a chance, if he was actually in a Xenoverse game or another movie in Dragon Ball and we got to know a little bit more about him. Sorry, I'm stuttering a bit, but if we got to know a little bit more about him, it would actually be interesting to see what he's capable of. What if he can actually get as strong as, let's say, Goku when he first went against Vegeta on Earth, or Goku when he first achieved Super Saiyan 1 or Super Saiyan 2, or even Goten and Trunks, or just to see how powerful he can get if he actually got his full power shown in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. So at number 6 you have Tapion, who's probably an interesting character to see in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. It will really be interesting to see what he will be capable of in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, if he is even included in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. And yeah, it will be fun to actually play as Tapion in a game, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. It will be fun to actually see his skills in this game. So moving on, we go to number 5, and number 5 is a more recent character that we know of from Dragon Ball Super. So all the recent characters from Dragon Ball Super will be number 5, 4, and number 3. Number 2 is from Z, and number 1 is from the movie. So let's move on. So at number 5 we have Champa. So what we know, Champa is the destruction guy for Universe 6. So Champa is basically the main squeeze in Universe 6. It's basically the Universe 6 version of Beerus, except a little bit more chubbier. It's basically the Universe 6 version of Beerus. Anger problems, wants to do this, wants to do that, gets angry fast, wants to destroy this. Champa is it's Champa. So Champa would be interesting to see in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, mainly because of all the abilities or whatever we could do with him, or whatever story that could revolve around Champa in Xenoverse 2. Because as we see from the trailer in Xenoverse 2, we could actually go back and we could shift things in time, and we could, from what you know so far, we can actually delve into the game and change a few things in Xenoverse 2. So to see a story revolving around Champa in Xenoverse 2, that would be really interesting to see what possibilities we could have, what we could do with Champa in Xenoverse 2, and just everything that revolves around Champa mainly in Xenoverse 2. Because we all know he's a strong character, he's a tough character, and he gets angry very fast, almost as much as Beerus. He has a competition with Beerus. Champa is basically just Champa. Everyone knows Champa as this fat-ish guy with a lot of anger problems like Beerus, who just wants to be the best at everything. So Champa is competitive, he's very strong, so it would be interesting to see what story would be involved with Champa in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, because that's going to be an interesting part in the game to play with, to play around, to just go through, to see Champa in Xenoverse 2. Sorry, to see Champa in Xenoverse 2. So that's number 5, so let's move on to number 4. At number 4 on the list we have Kabe from Dragon Ball Super, and Kabe, as we know, is a Saiyan from Universe 6, and he achieved the Super Saiyan form after only seeing Vegeta do it like one time in Dragon Ball Super, as far as I know. So, sorry, Kabe definitely has a lot of potential. It definitely has a lot of potential, and I remember recently, on a video on my main channel, Bonifies, I did a video about five things we need to see in Dragon Ball Super, and Kabe was on the list to see his potential in Dragon Ball Super. And to see Kabe in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 would be very interesting to see what capabilities he could have in the game. Would he be able to be Super Saiyan 2? Would he be able to be Super Saiyan 3? Would he be able to get to Super Saiyan Blue? Would he be able to get any high level of Super Saiyan? How far can his abilities reach? Because Kabe definitely has potential, because we see his fighting skills in Dragon Ball Super. We see that he's extremely talented, we see that he's extremely strong, but he's a little bit naive, and he doesn't know much about the power level of Vegeta or Goku. And to see if Vegeta and Goku actually took him under their wing, if he actually trained and became strong, Kabe would be a very strong, a very powerful fighter. So to play as Kabe in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, which would be something very awesome, it would be awesome to play as Kabe in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, because that would just be epic. Because Kabe is technically right now one of my favorite characters from the Universal Tournament in Dragon Ball Super. So Kabe would be a very interesting character to see in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, and especially all the abilities you could possibly have, or everything you could possibly bring to the table in this game. and to see what story revolves around him, to see if in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 there is entire arc revolving around him and his planet in the game. To see if there's an entire arc revolving around Universe 6 in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. That would be very, very interesting. That would be extremely interesting and fun to go through. Okay guys, so now moving on to number 3, we have Hit. And if you actually watch Dragon Ball Super, you know who Hit is. He's one of the strongest fighters from the Universe 6 tournament. Well, from Universe 6's side in the Universal Tournament. He's one of the strongest fighters on Universe 6's side. And he's got a mirage of techniques, and there are probably some techniques that we haven't yet seen in Dragon Ball Super or at all. Some probably hidden techniques that Akira Toriyama has on his mind to give to Hit, if he's ever brought back in Dragon Ball Super or if he's ever placed in a video game. And it would be really interesting to see Hit in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, mainly because of his capabilities and how strong he can be, because we know right now that Hit is stronger than Goku, given the fact that he basically pummeled Goku in the Universal Tournament, and Goku would have probably lost. He would have still lost even if he got the Kaioken times 10 with Super Saiyan Blue. So Hit is one of the strongest characters we know of right now. He's definitely in the top 50, the top 20 fighters in Dragon Ball Super right now. Definitely in the top 50 fighters, top 20, top 10 fighters in Dragon Ball Super right now, along with Champa, Beerus, Goku, Vegeta, probably Zeno in that list also. So, you know, Hit is one of the top tier fighters from Dragon Ball Super. And with his techniques, probably his Tokitobashi, skipping for time, and basically his immense strength, he would be a great character to play with and see what abilities he can bring to the table, what he can bring to the game. So to see Hit in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, all the special abilities he can bring, all the storylines that can be involved around him, all the storylines that can be involved mainly around him, to see if there's an entire arc in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 based around it. That would be a pretty interesting to go through, and it will give the game a little bit more of interesting feeling in that aspect. Not that other characters won't, but to get a story arc in the game revolving around Hit would be quite interesting. And especially as the game is probably still being developed right now, stuff is being added probably right now, it's not that unlikely that we'll be seeing Hit in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. If he's not in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, probably get him in the DLC, but it'd still be awesome if he's in the main game as a main character. So right now guys, moving on to number 2, we have Oob. So Oob is basically all the good energy from Majin Buu rolled up into one being. So Oob is basically the opposite of Majin Buu. Oob is basically the one who fights for the good, one who fights to help others, one who fights for the righteous, one who fights almost on the same level as Goku. And I'm not saying he's as strong as Goku, but I'm saying he fights for the same reasons as Goku. So Oob, well, we don't know much about Oob, since like at the end of Dragon Ball he was introduced, at the end of Dragon Ball Z, he was introduced at the end of Dragon Ball Z. But there wasn't much of a storyline revolving around Oob, and we don't actually know all his power potential. Although right now in Dragon Ball Super we haven't yet seen him, and in Dragon Ball GT there was a lot of stuff revolving around him, but that Oob in Dragon Ball GT, there wasn't like much of Akira Toriyama's creative mind involved in that. The design and everything was, most of the designs from GT were from Akira Toriyama, but all the creativity and the fighting and everything were not from Akira Toriyama. And to see Oob in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, and especially as Akira Toriyama is being involved in the creation and design and the skill set and everything in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, it will really be interesting, mainly because of how he would appear in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. What kind of skills he would have, what his strength tier, or how strong he would be, how fast he would be, how skilled he would be, what story would revolve around him. And to see an entire story revolved around his creation and how he adapts to being Oob, how he adapts to being good, how he adapts to training with Goku, to see all that storyline, to see that entire storyline, to see everything involved around that, would be really interesting. Mainly because he is sort of the character that would just fight for the good. He's basically the opposite of Buu, and to see Buu was like pure evil and just messed up in the head. To see Buu was like pure evil and dark. Oob is the direct opposite, and he wants to do the best and he wants to break his limits just to help others. So to see that in Xenoverse 2 would be very interesting and would be actually very fun to play as Oob as a character. So right now, finally moving on to number 1. This video is about what, 15 minutes long so far? Yeah, I hope you actually stay tuned for that, but blah blah blah. Okay, so finally moving on to number 1, we have Janemba. And if you watch the Dragon Ball Z movie, Fusion Reborn with Goku and Vegeta and everything, and when all the crooks are coming out from hell, yeah. If you watch that Dragon Ball Z movie, you know of Janemba, who is basically accumulated evil from the other realm, from hell in Dragon Ball Z. So Janemba is basically the accumulated evil from the other realm in Dragon Ball Z, and Goku has to fight against him along with Pikkon, and I didn't include Pikkon in this list for reasons I will not get into that, blah blah blah. So Janemba is basically pure evil, basically the opposite of Oob right now. So Janemba basically has only one thought or one goal, to just destroy, break everything, destroy everything, blah blah blah. We all know that, but we also know that he's extremely strong, and it took Super Gogeta to destroy Janemba, and to see the levels that Goku and Vegeta had to go through, because you know Goku wants to fuse, but you know Vegeta doesn't. Vegeta is not a fan of fusion with anybody, and to see Vegeta actually swallowing his pride to actually fuse with Goku to fight a villain shows that this villain must have been pretty strong. So because Goku had to fuse with Vegeta and that's what it took to take down Janemba, it shows that this character is pretty strong, and to see all the skill sets that Janemba would have in Xenoverse 2 if he was in Xenoverse 2, it would be pretty interesting to see everything that would revolve around his story in the game. Probably his creation, how he fought against Goku, blah blah blah, and to see how strong he would be in the game, to see if he'll be able to stand up against probably, let's say, Beerus, which is not likely, but he'll be able to stand up against Goku and Vegeta, but not at their current strength right now as if you see them in Super, because if they fought against him in Super, he'd probably die in 10 minutes or so. So right now, Janemba would be an awesome character to see in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 because of all the awesome skills he would have, and because of how high and how incredible his strength tier is, how strong he would be, and just to see how skilled he would be and how he would stand up against other fighters in the game. So that's basically for this video, guys, and all the characters in this video, all the characters I listed and mentioned, I mainly listed them because it would be interesting to see the story line revolving around them and to see how they would interact with other characters in the game, and just to see how strong they would be, what different types of skills they would have, and just basically to get an idea or a short knowledge of how powerful, fast, strong, talented, or just get to know more about them in the game. And especially if they're included in the main story, it will be very interesting to see all that right there. So once again, guys, thank you guys for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Bye.